assembly were beyond all description, and I shuddered to think what their life in the badger holes must be. Even in these days, when local self-government has destroyed the greater part of a native's respect for Sahib, I have been accustomed to a certain amount of civility from my inferiors, and on approaching the crowd naturally expected that there would be some recognition of my presence. As a matter of fact there was, but it was by no means what I had looked for. The ragged crew actually laughed at me. Such laughter I hope I may never hear again. They cackled, yelled, whistled, and howled as I walked into their midst, some of them literally throwing themselves down on the ground in convulsions of unholy mirth. In a moment I had let go Pornick's head, and, irritated beyond expression at the morning's adventure, commenced cuffing those nearest to me with all the force I could. The wretches dropped under my blows like ninepins, and the laughter gave place to wails for mercy, while those yet untouched clasped me around the knees, imploring me in all sorts of uncouth tongues to spare them. In the tumult, and just when I was feeling very much ashamed of myself for having thus easily given way to my temper, a thin, high voice murmured in English from behind my shoulder, "Sahib, Sahib! Do you not know me, Sahib? It is Gunga Dass, the telegraph master." I spun round quickly and faced the speaker. Gunga Dass I have, of course, no hesitation in mentioning the man's real name I had known 4 years earlier before as a Decani Brahmin loaned by the Punjab government to one of the Khalsia states. He was in charge of a branch telegraph office there, and when I last met him was a jovial, full-stomached, portly government servant with a marvelous capacity for making bad puns in English, a peculiarity which made me remember him long after I had forgotten his services to me in his official capacity. It is seldom that a Hindoo makes English puns. Now, however, the man was changed beyond all recognition. Caste mark, stomach, slate-colored continuations, and unctuous speech were all gone. I looked at a withered skeleton, turbanless and almost naked, with long matted hair and deep-set codfish eyes. But for a crescent-shaped scar on the left cheek, the result of an accident for which I was responsible, I should never have known him. But it was indubitably Gunga Dass, and for this I was thankful, an English-speaking native who might at least tell me the meaning of all that I had gone through that day. The crowd retreated to some distance as I turned toward the miserable figure, and ordered him to show me some method of escape from the crater. He held a freshly plucked crow in his hand, and in reply to my question climbed slowly on a platform of sand which ran in front of the holes, and commenced lighting a fire there in silence. Dried bents, sand poppies, and driftwood burn quickly, and I derived much consolation from the fact that he lit them with an ordinary sulphur match. When they were in a bright glow, and the crow was nearly spitted in front thereof, Gunga Dass began without a word of preamble. "There are only two kinds of men, sar, the alive and the dead. When you are dead, you are dead. But when you are alive, you live." Here the crow demanded his attention for an instant as it twirled before the fire in danger of being burned to a cinder. "If you die at home and do not die, when you come to the Ghat to be burned, you come here." The nature of the reeking village was made plain now, and all that I had known or read of the grotesque and the horrible paled before the fact just communicated by the ex-Brahmin. 16 years ago, when I first landed in Bombay, I had been told by a wandering Armenian of the existence, somewhere in India, of a place to which such Hindoos as had the misfortune to recover from trance or catalepsy were conveyed and kept, and I recollect laughing heartily at what I was then pleased to consider a traveler's tale. Sitting at the bottom of the sand trap, the memory of Watson's Hotel, with its swinging punkahs, white-robed attendants, and the sallow-faced Armenian, rose up in my mind as vividly as a photograph, and I burst into a loud fit of laughter. The contrast was too absurd. Gunga Dass, as he bent over the unclean bird, watched me curiously. Hindoos seldom laugh, and his surroundings were not such as to move Gunga Dass to any undue excess of hilarity. He removed the crow solemnly from the wooden spit, and as solemnly devoured it. Then he continued his story, which I give in his own words. "In epidemics of cholera you are carried to be burned almost before you are dead. When you come to the riverside, the cold air, perhaps, makes you alive, and then, if you are only little alive, mud is put in your nose and mouth, and you die conclusively. If you are rather more alive, more mud is put, but if you are too lively they let you go and take you away. I was too lively, and made protestation with anger against the indignities that they endeavored to press upon me. In those days I was Brahmin and proud man. Now I am dead man, and eat—" Here he eyed the well gnawed breastbone with the first sign of emotion that I had seen in him since we met. "Crows, and other things. They took me from my sheets when they saw that I was too lively, and gave me medicines for 1 week, and I survived successfully. Then they sent me by rail from my place to Okara Station, with a man to take care of me. And at Okara Station we met 2 other men, and they conducted we 3 on camels in the night from Okara Station to this place, and they propelled me from the top to the bottom, and the other 2 succeeded, and I have been here ever since, 2½ years. Once I was Brahmin and proud man, and now I eat crows." "There is no way of getting out?" "None of what kind at all. When I first came I made experiments frequently, and all the others also, but we have always succumbed to the sand which is precipitated upon our heads." "But surely," I broke in at this point, "the river front is open, and it is worth while dodging the bullets while at night." I had already matured a rough plan of escape, which a natural instinct of selfishness forbade me sharing with Gunga Dass. He, however, divined my unspoken thought almost as soon as it was formed, and to my intense astonishment gave vent to a long, low chuckle of derision, the laughter, be it understood, of a superior, or at least of an equal. "You will not," he had dropped the "sir" completely after his opening sentence, "make any escape that way, but you can try. I have tried once only." The sensation of nameless terror and abject fear, which I had in vain attempted to strive against, overmastered me completely. My long fast—it was now close upon 10 o'clock, and I had eaten nothing since tiffin on the previous day—combined with the violent and unnatural agitations of the ride, had exhausted me, and I verily believe that for a few minutes I acted as one mad. I hurled myself against the pitiless sand slope. I ran round the base of the crater, blaspheming and praying by turns. I crawled out among the sedges of the river front, only to be driven back each time in an agony of nervous dread by the rifle bullets which cut up the sand round me. For I dared not face the death of a mad dog among that hideous crowd, and finally fell, spent and raving, at the curb of the well. No one had taken the slightest notion of an exhibition which makes me blush hotly even when I think of it now. 2 or 3 men trod on my panting body as they drew water, but they were evidently used to this sort of thing, and had no time to waste upon me. The situation was humiliating. Gunga Dass, indeed, when he had banked the embers of his fire with sand, was at some pains to throw half a cupful of fetid water over my head, an attention for which I could have fallen on my knees and thanked him; but he was laughing all the while in the same mirthless, wheezy key that greeted me on my first attempt to force the shoals. And so, in a semi-comatose condition, I lay till noon. Then, being only a man after all, I felt hungry, and intimated as much to Gunga Dass, whom I had begun to regard as my natural protector. Following the impulse of the outer world when dealing with natives, I put my hand into my pocket and drew out 4 annas. The absurdity of the gift struck me at once, and I was about to replace the money. Gunga Dass, however, was of a different opinion. "Give me the money," said he, "all you have, or I will get help, and we will kill you." All this as if it were the most natural thing in the world. A Briton's first impulse, I believe, is to guard the contents of his pockets. But a moment's reflection convinced me of the futility of differing with the one man who had it in his power to make me comfortable, and with whose help it was possible that I might eventually escape from the crater. I gave him all the money in my possession, Rs. 9, 8, 5, 9 rupees, 8 annas, and 5 pi, for I always kept small change as baksheesh when I am in camp. Gunga Dass clutched the coins and hid them at once in his ragged loincloth, his expression changing to something diabolical as he looked round to assure himself that no one had observed us. "Now I will give you something to eat," said he. What pleasure the possession of my money could have afforded him I am unable to say; but inasmuch as it did give him evident delight,